Welcome to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, the ultimate resource for business leaders eager to skyrocket your company's growth. I'm your host, Kerry Curran, and this episode is How Smart CMOs Integrate Marketing into Business Growth Strategy, with special guest Collin Colburn, Senior Account Executive at Forrester. In this episode, we delve into the critical role of marketing in shaping business strategy and driving value. Collin and I discuss how smart marketers can position themselves as key players in strategic business decisions, emphasizing the importance of aligning marketing with overall corporate vision and goals. Whether it's enhancing customer retention, fostering new business growth, or navigating the ever-evolving landscape of sales and marketing alignment, we discuss practical advice and real-world examples to help you elevate your marketing game and ensure your organization thrives in today's competitive environment. If you're ready to align your marketing expertise with your business goals, this episode is a must listen. Let's go. And welcome, Collin. Why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Kerry. So excited to be here. Collin Colburn, over at Forrester, was an analyst here for 6 years, and now on the commercial side of our business, working with lots of Fortune 500 organizations across marketing, IT, and customer experience. So very, very excited to be here and excited for our discussion.
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Collin. And no, thank you for joining. And I know you have a lot of experience in this space looking at marketing and how it affects business strategy and the overall corporate planning. So talk a bit about how you're seeing the role of marketing in relation to business strategy.
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that's very top of mind for a lot of the CMOs that I meet with today, because many of them are trying to figure out how can they include themselves in these conversations around business strategy. And so much of it is around how can marketing be the center function that delivers value for the business. So that's really the I think the wedge that a lot of smart marketers that I work with are trying to drive, is that marketing is the value delivery orchestrator within the company. So that's, I think, how they're trying to wedge their way into being more involved in those strategic business conversations about growth, about go-to-market, about everything kind of across the traditional 4 Ps, if you will: product, price, placement, promotion. Promotion kind of being the one that marketing always is thought of being included in or owning, but many of these marketers are trying to be included in all 4 of those facets.
Yeah, definitely. And I know over the years we've had a lot of conversations in regards to mission, vision, values, and kind of how that represents your brand identity, your company positioning, and what ultimately, from my perspective, that kind of comes into play as the company's North Star, so that, as we were talking about before, if everyone understands what the company represents, where are we trying to be in 3 years, who are we as a brand, as we're communicating to our customers, our prospects out in the industry, and that, for me, my perspective, really, marketing needs to have a strong role in developing that. And I think that's often, when I'm talking to people, it's not always the case, that should come from the CEO or but it should really be the brand and marketing. But what's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, marketing really is it's the function that manages the business ecosystem and the relationships around the ecosystem. So whether it's the way in which employees are engaging with customers, the way in which you work with outside partners and channel partners, or even influencers, or whoever is representing
Right.
your brand and your organization. Marketing really is responsible for managing and orchestrating all of those relationships, and being a strategic partner with all of those partnerships. So one of the things that's really interesting when I think about like the mission, vision, values, and there's lots of different ways in which companies and people think about, some call it mission, vision, purpose, or whatever, but really the structure there is to really use those three pegs on a stool, if you will, to prop up what that relationship building looks like from marketing. Vision really being, that's the thought leader engine of like, where is the business going? Where is the market going that the business is operating in? And making sure that your organization has a voice in that discussion. The mission being really internally facing of what are the things that the organization is going to do, what are we trying to have all of our employees do on a day-to-day basis that is going to get us to that vision. And then the values or the purpose or whatever you want to call these things, these are really like the principles that we have internally that we expect our employees to enable and sort of be the stewards of, and for our customers to kind of expect from us. So really quick example, at Forrester, we our vision is really, we help organizations be bold, and we help leaders at organizations be bold at work, like make bold decisions to lead growth and to lead change within their organization. And then our mission internally is really to be on our client's side and by their side. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to do everything and head nod all along the way about everything that they think they should be doing. We're going to validate or invalidate some of the things that they're doing based on our research that we have. But it really means to be like a partner on their side and by their side. And then we have values that we've had, gosh, I think since the company was founded. It's really making sure that we are courageous, that we're the partner that's going to speak up when maybe no one else is going to tell the truth. We're client first in terms of really everything that we do. All the research we produce is in stewardship of delivering value to our customer. It's about collaboration. That's such an important principle that we hold here of, I talk to, again, marketing, IT, CX folks, and in order for them to be successful, they need to align and collaborate internally. So we also have to align and collaborate internally to really live out that principle. And then there's quality. We want to make sure that all of our research is high quality. And then the last thing is integrity. Like, that's super important as well, because we want people to trust us. And we have to make sure that we are instilling integrity internally in order for people to be able to trust us.
The mission, vision, values, the go-to-market strategy, like that was a very core component of the overall score that would allow a company to be ranked, with as in the leader, or a contender, et cetera. And so what I learned from that and from you in that process is that tell me the Forrester perspective, but that it gave indication to the strength of the organization, right? If the team was clear on, if they were able to articulate those aspects, it gave you an idea of the maturity of the organization, the alignment within the organization, and just kind of how they were going to service clients going forward by staying innovative and planning for the future.
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It really is like that strategic side of the evaluation was really to be about who is this company, and especially in the when I think about like service providers, like agencies and consultancies, so often, and this is something that I've had a lot of debates about over the years, but I truly fundamentally believe that most buyers, so that would be marketers at brands who buy agency or consulting services, they're at the end of the day, they're the sort of like the thing that gets them to purchase, or the thing that gets them to say yes to a particular service provider isn't necessarily checking the box of their capabilities. That
Right.
gets them to say yes to
Mm-hmm.
the next conversation. It doesn't get them to say
Mm-hmm.
yes to, I want to partner with you, I want you to run my
Mm-hmm.
media, or I want you to run my website, or I want you to, be part of my, organizational design, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that gets them to say yes is, do I buy into the vision that you have as
Right.
an organization? Do I buy
Mm-hmm.
into how we are going to evolve together as partners? And
Yeah.
that's why that strategy access is so critical, because
Mm-hmm.
that is where all of that sort of forward looking vision and assets that you have that tell your story lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you can't articulate that really well into the marketplace, you're never going to get to the sort of the next rung of growth on the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be very slow and very.
Right.
It's going to be it's a tough way up, in my opinion, especially
Mm-hmm.
for agencies that are at a certain size, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
Mm-hmm.
where vision can really accelerate your next level of growth, is being able to articulate that well and to drive
Mm-hmm.
it into the market to give yourself a competitive advantage against others in the marketplace.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely see it. You want a partner that you know is going to grow with you and bring you the latest and the greatest and the benefits of that. So definitely agree. And actually, one other component of that is that as I've been having a lot of branding conversations, you're in historically one of the agencies that I worked with when we were partnering together, the differentiator was always, we're the biggest. We're the biggest globally. And I remember you saying very specifically is, so what? Like, make sure you're bringing forward, like, what does that mean for your customers, for your clients? Like, being the biggest, so what? It's like, do you have better negotiated rates? Do you have access to more platforms? Do you have access to more trainings and experts? So that's something, tying into that I've always remember when people give a very basic or generic, unique value prop, the so what, and that ties into that whole story. So I know you talk to a lot of
Yeah. One of
CMOs,
the
and oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things about like big that I've seen, and a good example, I can't name the company. It's actually not in the digital agency space, but another organization that I've worked with recently, like their marketing organization sort of used the idea of like, we're the biggest in our space, and flipped it on its head, and sort of said, we're the biggest, but it means that we can also be very very tactical in terms of understanding you as a business in the industry that you're in really well, because
Hmm.
we know a lot of other companies that are in your industry, or in
Right.
industries that are parallel to the one that you're in. So
Right.
we're going to get to know you even better,
Hmm. Hmm.
and really understand the market that you're in. So I think that was such like a smart way to think about like how to talk about scale in a
Yeah. Yeah.
relatable in a relatable way. That's what I always like look
Yeah.
for is, are you talking to people just to say like we're the biggest, or is
Hmm.
it using big as again as like a differentiator, an advantage against others?
Yeah, definitely. And so, in your conversations with the CMOs that you have or other executives that you're speaking with in your role, like what are you seeing kind of as the in the marketing role? How have you seen the role shift over the last few years, especially in relation to business development and sales?
Yeah, I mean, the it's really interesting because there are many flavors of companies in terms of the type of relationship that marketing has with sales,
Hmm.
and vice versa.
Hmm.
And to me, I've seen as the economic situation that we're in, and I don't think either of us are going to claim that we're economists, or formal economists here. But we are in a strange economic environment.
Yeah,
We've
for
seen
sure.
it's no secret that marketing organizations have been somewhat ransacked in certain
Hmm.
areas in terms of the amount of resources that they have, the budget that they
Yeah.
have, and that's really been a challenging uphill battle for a lot of marketing organizations that I've worked with, because
Hmm.
you know, especially if you're in sort of those situations where you're a sales-led organization.
Right.
Um, and now you're in a position where not only do you have fewer dollars to spend, you have
Mm-hmm.
fewer resources to be able to work with sales.
Right.
Like
Right.
at the end of the day, it's a sales-led organization when sales has the largest number of employees, which is
Right.
very
Right.
common in
Mm-hmm.
B2B
Yes.
organizations, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really best practice, I think. But marketing needs to have not just as many, but it needs to have a certain level, a certain watermark of
Right.
resources available to be able
Mm-hmm.
to work with the different sections of sales to really understand what are the needs of sellers today,
Right.
to also have an ear to the ground when it comes to buyers.
Mm-hmm.
But the environment that we're in is not allowing that to really happen in certain sectors. So that's a huge challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I would say is that it's interesting what's going on with like, and you've even seen this like firsthand, like the development of like CROs and CGOs and these titles and
Mm-hmm.
roles that have kind
Mm-hmm.
of taken over both sales and marketing. Sometimes that's really good. Like
Yeah.
sometimes that's amazing because it
Yeah.
means
Mm-hmm.
that there is going to be really strong alignment between sales and marketing. Other
Yeah.
times it's kind of like it's a little bit of like a smoke and mirrors thing where you're like, oh, what's actually going on here is that marketing is basically just being folded in here and and,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of
Mm-hmm.
just said like, you just keep on running those demand campaigns, keep filling the funnel, and it's
Right.
really in service of sales. That's
Right.
the situations where it's very clear and obvious to me, like, oh, marketing does not have a strategic seat at the table within the highest levels of that business.
Yeah, and that's what I'm seeing and hearing as well. And I think that goes back to, what we were just saying earlier, though, is that marketing needs to know the industry, know the business, and be able to communicate and be involved in developing and communicating that the company presence, the mission, the vision, the brand, and that's needs to be part of the corporate growth strategy. The what's interesting to me about and I've heard that as well, is like marketing, a VP of marketing rolling up to the CRO maybe. And to your point, like that's fine, but um, it's you're going to make it a lot easier for your sales organization if your marketing team has budget, has the resources, can be out there building the awareness so people have heard of you, building that, communicating to the audience your value, your differentiators, so that when they connect with your salesperson, they've already heard of you. And I keep thinking about the concept of the BDR or the SDR. When they cut back on marketing so much, the you don't want your SDR. I mean, I know there's a lot of different levels and experience of SDR, but I think of like the, cold calling, young 20 something. Is that who you want to be your target audience, your prospects first impression of your brand? Should it really be this person or the
Right.
salesperson that is doing all of the education, and it will make their job easier if you when they pick up the call or send the email, that someone's like, "Oh, yes, like I've heard of Forrester. I'll take the call. I'll set up the meeting." And so that's what I'm kind of hearing that is happening more. And it goes back to, the CMO or this marketing having losing that seat at the table.
Yeah, there's two different ends of the spectrum, and I see both of
Hmm.
them today
Hmm. Hmm.
across industries. Of we have an SDR RDR function, and all they do is take inbound. Like they're
Hmm.
because we can't even fulfill the amount of
Right.
leads that we have coming in, and that's really their job, is like to just
Hmm. Hmm.
take the leads that marketing has given them and qualify them and then send them on to the account
Hmm.
person.
Yeah.
Great problem to have. There are issues on that side as well. And
Hmm.
then on the other end is where I think a lot of organizations are going today, which is marketing is so resource strapped. They're not generating the number of leads that the
Hmm.
business needs. So now
Yeah.
the RDR and SDR function is the only
Right.
significant outbound function
Hmm.
that we
Hmm.
have. And that's where I think you can also get in trouble, to your point of,
Yeah.
like, is that really the first impression that we want
Hmm.
new prospects to have of the
Right.
brand?
Right.
Maybe sometimes, like if it's marketing enabled, where we're using
Yeah.
really good data from,
Hmm.
competitive intelligence to be able to go out and prospect around really
Right.
key accounts,
More
yes. But if it's
personalized,
the
like, yeah.
but if it's the just total batch and
Yeah.
blast, like
Hmm.
it's a
Hmm.
precarious position to be in. And you know, the other thing is I think about so many of the buyers and executives I meet with today, and so many of them say, like, I get like 100, 200, three
Yeah.
hundred
Yeah.
sales emails or calls a
Hmm.
day.
Hmm.
And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, like no wonder response rates are so low to those sorts of
Hmm.
emails,
Hmm.
because these people are just like, they're overwhelmed. They're like, I can't,
Right.
I can't parse any of it out.
Right.
And that's
Right.
where I think marketing plays such a unique role of, it can cut through that. Really good marketing, really good thought leadership, really good
Hmm.
content
Hmm.
can cut through a lot of that noise. And it doesn't always have to be in the form of an email or a cold call,
Right.
right? It can happen in
Right.
other more
Right.
contextually relevant places or ways.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. And again, it's like marketing can start building the awareness, building the relationship with the prospect, even if it's, an online relationship through emails or being present at conferences or webinars or newsletters, like building that relationship so that you are building that trust with your prospect. So to your point, when they do call or connect with your or receive an email from your salesperson, it's a warmer relationship. So definitely hope to see the pendulum switch back, or a more balanced approach to the marketing strategy in alignment with sales, because I worry about what's going to happen in a year from now, and or all of the organizations who have been so desperate for sales cutting marketing, doubling down on sales. They're not building the pipeline for next year or the next year. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I think the more we can promote marketing as a strategic growth function, the more successful these companies will be.
Totally, I couldn't agree more. And you need to have both in order to be really successful, in order to
Yeah.
grow, and even to, like, one of the things we haven't really talked about. We've talked a lot about growth, and we've talked a lot
Yeah.
about, new business and all that sort of stuff with
Hmm.
sales. But like, marketing also has a really big role to play as it relates to retention too.
Yes.
For
Yes.
so many companies, like, the
Hmm.
majority of their revenue, especially in the B2B space,
Hmm.
is retained business.
You're right. Yeah.
And that's another like qualifier of maturity or criteria for maturity,
Hmm.
that I'm always
Hmm.
curious about within marketing
Yes.
orgs is,
Hmm.
how much of marketing is spent or resourced around retention.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if it's none and it's all based on new business, but 80% of your business
Hmm.
revenue is from retention from
Right.
existing
Right.
customers,
Yep.
that shows immediately that marketing is just, again, kind of seen as like this demand engine tool, which
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't want to belittle that, because it's important. It's so
Hmm.
important, but
Right.
it does have a lot more value beyond just getting leads into the pipeline. Like, it does have ways to be able to support customer success, support, renewals, and getting it to understand, like,
Yeah.
how our customers experiencing us today, like our existing customers, and be able
Right.
to know, like, where we have strengths, where we have weaknesses,
And
and
additional
be able to fold
values
that
or
back into
different.
the
Yeah.
strategy.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Like it's, yeah, making them aware of the other benefits of being your customer, not just using your software or yeah. So I definitely agree with you. And thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's another aspect that needs to be part of it. And I think that goes back to, too, is making sure every customer service person or account executive is also living the brand values, and is up to date on information from marketing, so they can continually share news, updates, etc. So definitely agree with you there, and hopefully we'll see that as well. But great. And so, Colin, I'd just love if you had one quick piece of advice for one of your companies that you've spoken with, or what would it be?
Yeah, I would say to any CMO out there to think about, like, when we talk about marketing strategy, it's really, is your strategy as a marketing organization, is it directly aligned to the business goals
Mm-hmm.
and priorities that the business has? And is it over the course of a 3 to 5 year period? And
Mm-hmm.
then do you have plans in place for each of those years within that time frame?
Yeah.
That's, to me, like, that is the nucleus of
Yeah.
marketing today.
Yeah.
Is if you can do, if you can make sure that those, like, what is it, three criteria, like
Mm-hmm.
strategy aligned to the business,
Mm-hmm.
strategic plan, and annual plans. Like, if you can have all of those built out, I think it puts you in such a better position as a CMO to have these strategic conversations internally, to be sort of seen as one of, the leaders in the organization
Mm-hmm.
responsible for planning, strategic planning. That would be my piece of advice. It's not easy to do. There's a lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
hills and hurdles to be able to get there, but
Mm-hmm.
it's got to be one of the top priorities,
Mm-hmm.
from a strategic perspective, for any new CMO, or even a CMO who's been in the same organization for a while, to make sure that you're constantly evolving those strategic plans.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Colin. Again, we're grateful to have you on with us, and I know anyone listening or watching the video today has definitely learned something. So thank you. I'm your host, Kerry Curran, and this is Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for our next episode. Unveil the hidden power of B2B branding, decoding your brand's DNA for explosive business growth. And be sure to subscribe to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, for more ways to skyrocket your company's growth.